Tonight, provincial leaders meet in Eastern Canada to discuss the state of health care in the country.
We struggle to meet the demands of patient care, and we have no end in sight.
Ford's visit to the Maritimes comes as Ontario's hospitals are strained by staff shortages, with some emergency rooms forced to close. Plus,
I heard like a boom.
Toronto Island ferries are operating on a modified schedule after a crash on Saturday that injured 12 people. We'll have the latest on the investigation. And
it's delightful to see people wearing hats, fascinators, and celebrating all things that are fun and fashionable.
Fun, fashion, and fast horses. We'll take you to the 163rd Queen's Plate.
This is CBC Late Night News.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is in Atlantic Canada for a summit focusing on the national healthcare crisis. Ford met with Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston today. Tomorrow, both will travel to Moncton to gather with other premiers. All are dealing with serious strains on their healthcare services. Those issues are expected to be discussed at a summit tomorrow. They're looking for solutions to problems that right now are only getting worse. As the weekend kicked off, Manitoba's busiest emergency department needed at least 24 nurses, but their union says only 8 were scheduled.
Basically, if there isn't a nurse to look after a patient in the bed, it's just a piece of furniture.
Health officials say staff were reassigned from other parts of the hospital and asked to work overtime. Part-time employees were also called in.
People are just desperately tired, frustrated, frightened, and burned out.
In Ontario, staffing issues forced some hospitals to close their ERs at various times throughout the summer.
High degree of uncertainty and certainly a lot of distress and moral injury.
This weekend, 2 hospitals north of Toronto warned people to seek alternative help for anything less than an emergency.
It is incredibly difficult. We struggle to meet the demands of patient care, and we have no end in sight.
Those struggles are happening across Canada. In the Northwest Territories, paramedics will now be called into healthcare centres to help out. In BC, 1/3 of nurses worked overtime this year. That's more than the national average.
When they are continuously called upon to pick up extra shifts, to extend their shifts from 12 hours to 16 hours or more, nurses are human beings. They're not robots.
Saskatchewan will soon move some patients to a private clinic in Calgary. Frontline staff say it would help if nurses could also move across provincial borders.
With nurse professionals moving from one province to the other, there are many barriers.
The struggling healthcare system is expected to be discussed when the Premier of Ontario meets his maritime counterparts this week. And the clock is ticking. Experts warn the problem will only get worse this fall, with an expected rise in flu and COVID patients.
I think we're going to see some challenges within the healthcare sector this winter. And the other sort of unfortunate part is there's no magic, easy, quick fix.
That's all too clear to hospital staff struggling even now to care for those who need it. Police are searching for the driver of a black SUV after a collision that caused a gas leak this morning. Toronto Fire says the SUV hit multiple parked cars and the driver fled.
One being the parked car in the driveway at the front of the home here at 524. And pushed that vehicle into the porch, which damaged a gas meter, causing an extensive gas leak, and also damaged one of the pillars holding up the front corner of the porch.
It happened near St. Clair and Old Weston Road around 9:20 this morning. A neighbor says the front left tire of his vehicle was ripped from his car in the collision.
The car came in at a high speed, hit our car, hit another car in front, ended up hitting about 3 cars before he ran into the house. When we came outside to check, he left the car, took a glance, and walked away like nothing happened.
Multiple homes were evacuated due to safety concerns caused by the gas leak. All residents have since been able to return to their homes. No injuries were reported. Police are asking anyone with information to contact them. Police are searching for a man wanted in a homicide investigation. 33-year-old Dylan Dowman is wanted on a Canada-wide warrant for first-degree murder. The victim has been identified as 23-year-old Daniela Malia. Police say on Thursday they responded to a medical call near Jane and Wilson. Malia was located with gunshot wounds in a parking garage and pronounced dead at the scene. Police say Dowman is considered armed and dangerous. They advise anyone who spots him not to approach him. And police have identified a man who is wanted in connection to a fatal stabbing that happened yesterday in Scarborough. 34-year-old Sathisaran Rajaratnam is wanted for second-degree murder. Today, police are identifying the victim as 38-year-old Leon Tyrell. They say the incident happened in the lobby of a building near Kingston and Glen Everest roads. Police say not to approach the suspect and to contact them. Police are still investigating after a Toronto Island ferry crashed yesterday while docking at the Jack Layton terminal. At least a dozen people suffered minor injuries. Greg Ross has the latest.
It was business as usual at the Jack Layton ferry terminal today, despite being down a ferry.
Yeah, it was busy on the ferry. It was crowded, but it's manageable.
People we spoke to say the ferries were pretty full, but it didn't impact wait time significantly.
Had to wait like 10 minutes here and then on the other side maybe like 15, so it's okay.
Police have still not determined what caused one of the city's ferries to crash yesterday evening.
There was a collision with the boat as it was docking.
The ferry was carrying hundreds of passengers at the time.
I heard like a boom.
Witnesses say the impact was severe enough to knock people off of their feet.
We arrived on scene to find 12 minor injuries.
Paramedics say of the 12 people injured, 5 had to be taken to hospital, including 2 children.
So I'm being injured like this.
This woman and her husband were on board when the ferry crashed.
It just stopped very, very suddenly, and so everyone fell down. And unfortunately, my wife was on the very front, so when she fell down, many people fall down on top of her. So she got very bad injured. Her knees hit on the ground.
This was one of the city's 3 passenger ferries. It has now been taken out of service for repairs. A spokesperson for the city said ferry service will be reduced until further notice during one of the busiest months on the Toronto Islands. City staff say that they are going to be conducting their own investigation into yesterday's crash, and they say before resuming full operations, they're going to bring in an inspector to ensure that they are meeting all safety procedures and measures. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
The 163rd running of the Queen's Plate took place today, and it was the first time it was held at full capacity since 2019. Dale Manukduk was there to take in all of the excitement and prestige.
And she's exploding down the outside, and in the blink of an eye has raced to the front, and it's Moira.
Just like that, the only filly or female in the field zipped past all of the boys to take home the 163rd Queen's Plate, and it wasn't even close.
She seems to have the ability to be patient and sit there and then pounce on her opposition in the stretch.
The 3-year-old filly was the favorite heading into the race, and the win surely brought thrills to the owners and bettors. But not everyone was so lucky or informed on the recreational wagers.
Guys, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. You got any winners yet?
No.
We're doing all right.
You're doing all right. Couple winners so far?
She's doing better than me.
I don't even know who's in the big race yet.
It's really just about the fun.
Yeah.
Fun for everyone in a packed house. The Queen's Plate sold out this year after 0 attendees due to the pandemic in 2020 and limited capacity last year. The flower wall was back to snap some amazing outfits.
Anyone who knows anything about the Queen's Plate knows it's not just about the races, it's also about the fashion. I went with pancake socks from the clearance bin, cost me $1, and a Valentino coat. Won't disclose how much that cost me. But the Queen's Plate is a chance to have fun, get fancy, get silly. We spoke with David Dunkley, the official milliner, and people in attendance. Here's what they had to say.
Of course, I love seeing all my work walk around. As the official milliner, it's just delightful to see people wearing hats, fascinators, and celebrating all things that are fun and fashionable.
You look sharp today.
Thank you.
Tell me about the inspiration for the outfit.
Well, as you can see, my wife here, she dresses me, so, it's Woodbine, so we came out good.
Eliza Doolittle and My Fair Lady, Audrey Hepburn.
Well, I actually go to my sister. She's a fascinator expert. But you just have to match it to the dress.
We got to know the story behind this hat.
The story behind the hat, homemade, totally homemade.
That puts a bow on the 163rd Queen's Plate. The second leg of the Canadian Triple Crown runs on September 13th in Fort Erie. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, it's a sign that summer is about to end. The CNE in Toronto and the PNE in Vancouver. An opportunity to get in some midway rides and fanciful foods. Susanna De Silva has this tale of two fairs.
A roller coaster is a pretty good analogy for what the world has been through the last couple of years. So what better way to welcome more people back to the PNE than with a refurbished classic?
Over the last 18 months, we did a major restoration, about $1 million in work, about 12,000 feet of wood replaced on the coaster.
The wooden roller coaster opened in 1958 at a cost of $200,000.
It's kind of scary from the first drop.
First time riding it, pretty intense.
It's a big drop. I'm not doing that again.
A scaled-back fair was held last year, and while this year it has expanded, some smaller buildings are still closed, masks are recommended inside, and numbers are still limited.
We are estimating that this year's attendance over the 15 days will be about 500,000 people. Our normal fair, we would be anywhere from 700,000 to 750,000.
Jimmy's Lunch has been a vendor here since 1929. His grandson, who started working the fair at the age of 7, is happy more people will get a chance to try their burgers.
It started off as more of not a fast food restaurant, but a sit down, and they had real china, and then it evolved over time. Yeah, great to be back.
In Toronto, the CNE is back after a 2-year hiatus.
I'm just here to have fun, continue living, and hope for the best and have a good time with a lot of people.
It has its own new offerings, COVID-19 vaccinations, along with maybe some new classics.
I've had better ice cream, but for ketchup ice cream, it's not terrible.
But the CNE is also dealing with a labor dispute. Ride safety inspectors are off the job, though officials insist rides remain safe.
I have to be brave enough to go for the boys' sake, so they can see that daddy's not scared.
And after 2 years, fair-goers and organizers are hoping for nothing but fun. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
And not a bad day today to check out the CNE. Matt Hamill from the Weather Network joins us now for a first look at the forecast. Matt?
Talia, we've been seeing some parts of the GTA getting very intense rainfall, but yeah, for folks at the CNE, kind of closer to the lake, not seeing a ton of that rain. But how about this? In Brampton today, north of the city, we have radar indications upwards of 150 millimeters of rain. And as we look ahead to tomorrow, possibly some more heavy downpours in the forecast, very scattered in nature. You might see it, you might see no rain at all. And as of right now, we no longer have some of the severe thunderstorm warnings that were a bit closer to the GTA from earlier today, more so just northeast of Barrie for now. But let's unpack what we're seeing right now. A bit of stormy activity northeast of the city, but as you can see, kind of what we've seen over the past few days, not a whole lot close to downtown Toronto. So that's good news for CNE goers. Now let's see how this is timing out for tomorrow, because our Monday, just like the past few days, is looking quite stormy. Now we can pause around 10 in the morning, possibly some stormy action around Toronto, but later into the afternoon, look at all the storms swirling around the GTA. Once again, hit or miss. You could see heavy downpours of rain. You could see not much at all. Here is our storm risk for Monday. And coming up a bit later in the forecast, we'll tell you how the rest of the week is looking. But Talia, looks like we're off to a bit of a stormy start in the GTA.
Thanks, Matt.
You got it.
The Canadian men's junior team took gold at the World Junior Championship in Edmonton. Aaron Collins has more on that.
It's a golden end for Canada to one of the strangest World Junior hockey tournaments in history, held in August in front of few fans, but a win is a win. This won Canada's 19th at the World Juniors, a 3-2 overtime nail-biter over Finland. And despite all the distractions off the ice, it's a win that matters to Team Canada.
So thankful to be a Canadian and to have the tournament here, and for the IHF to reschedule it for us is something that doesn't go unnoticed. So yeah, so thankful for that, and so proud to be Canadian.
This is a tough enough tournament to win when it's a normal tournament at Christmas time, and
for this group to come in here under the cloud that they came in with what was going on, with Hockey Canada.
So Canada was the story on the ice here, but the real storylines unfolded off the ice. This tournament delayed due to a pandemic. Russia banned due to the ongoing war in Ukraine, and all that as Team Canada remains mired in a scandal. Former players accused of sexual assault. Few fans bothering to tune in to games, even in Hockey Mad Canada. Something the International Ice Hockey Federation's hopes is a one-off.
I would like to stress out that World Juniors is a very, very good brand. It has been a success for many, many years when it's traditionally in the Christmas. This is a one-timer here in Edmonton with this situation in August. So I don't think we have any plans to change the World Juniors. We just need to come back to normal.
It won't take long to get back to normal. The next World Juniors is just months away, set to kick off in Halifax on Boxing Day. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Edmonton.
Today, some major downtown streets were closed to cars to make room for people.
Free recreational public health opportunities to Torontonians, and we do that by opening the streets to people, by closing them to cars.
Instead of just going from point A to point B in the daily hassle and bustle of life, this actually allows you to walk more closely, and hopefully you will notice some of the businesses that has been in your neighborhood for a long time.
Open Streets TO organized the event. The temporary park hosted activities like yoga classes, jump rope, and dance, drawing hundreds of people to the closed roads to walk, cycle, or rollerblade. It was the first time the event was held since the start of the pandemic. In Moscow, investigators are probing a fatal car bombing last night that many believe missed its intended target. The victim was the daughter of a high-profile Russian nationalist. Briar Stewart has the story.
Investigators picked through the remnants of a deadly car explosion, an attack that appears to have brought the fallout from the Ukrainian invasion right to the door of Russia's capital. 29-year-old Daria Dugina was killed in this explosion. Many have suggested her father was the intended target. In a video published by Russian media, Alexander Dugin can be seen distraught on the side of the road. He was in a different car traveling behind her. A state news outlet reported that he was originally supposed to be in the car she was in. This was Dugin in 2014, suggesting that Ukrainians need to be killed in retribution for an attack in Donetsk. He's a political philosopher who thinks Russia needs to seize and consolidate power to challenge the strength of the West.
And Russia says, no, you are not boss. You are not anymore boss.
He and his daughter have been sanctioned by the U.S., Britain, and Canada for spreading disinformation.
And Daria Dugina was very active in this aggression in Ukraine. She was writing a book about glorifying this war. She visited Mariupol recently. She called for public execution of Azov-style prisoners, etc.
She last appeared on state TV boasting that Russia was being delicate when it came to what it calls its special operation. She said Russia should hold tribunals across eastern Ukraine to, quote, investigate these people who are already not human. Her father wasn't a regular commentator, and a longtime friend says he wasn't as influential as some have claimed.
Alexander Dugin had been never invited to the main Russian TV channels because government regard him as too radical.
Sergei Markov, who's also outspoken and supports the Russian invasion, says many like him now fear for their safety. Ukraine says it isn't responsible. What is clear, it has created a new sense of unease in Moscow and likely little sympathy in Ukraine. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Tallinn, Estonia.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is in Canada, aiming to secure new trade and supply routes and decrease Germany's reliance on Russian energy. Scholz and a delegation of business leaders arrived in Montreal tonight. He meets with Justin Trudeau tomorrow, then heads to an economic conference in Toronto. Clean energy will be the focus of his mission, with the Ukraine war disrupting Russian supply. The delegation also visits Newfoundland to sign a wind energy agreement. Stay with us. We'll be right back. The Pan American Food Festival took over Young Dundas Square this weekend.
The name is oblea, and basically this is a thin wafer, and then you can see this is made with caramel milk, dulce de leche, or arequipe.
We have here one arepa, pabellon arepa. It's our signature dish, and this one is filled with black beans, flan steak, cheese, and plantain.
Dancing, food, and music drew dozens of people. An empanada competition let foodies cast their vote for the best pastry. The festival is organized by Artsplosion Cultural Society and celebrates the diverse culture of the Americas. And there was a big cleanup effort today at Tommy Thompson Park. A number of community environmental groups joined forces to clean the shoreline on land and water. One of the goals of the cleanup was to help preserve and protect the wildlife.
Leslie Spit and Tommy Thompson Park is the last real refuge for these animals, and we need to protect them. And it just means the world to me to see everybody out here to help.
Matt Hamill's back now with your extended forecast. Matt, did we almost miss you there?
Yeah, I'm just back on the scene. No, I'm just getting everything ready for you, Talia. But yes, we are going to touch back into our long-range forecast. But Talia, we've seen some stormy activity over the past few days. That continues to kick things off here. We have a bit of a stormy setup for the beginning of our week. Maybe we start to see some relief finally from the storms by Tuesday and Wednesday. But let's unpack how things have shaped up for our Sunday. We've seen north of Brampton upwards of 150 millimeters of rainfall. So it's been kind of hit or miss, right? Some areas not seeing much rain at all. Some areas getting absolutely hammered with rain. And for tomorrow, quite a large area of the GTA, southern Ontario, even into Quebec, seeing some of those heavier rainfall totals. So once again, lingering with that storm set up for our Monday. Now, for our 7-day forecast for Toronto, we're going to see temperatures tomorrow 24 feeling like 30. For our Tuesday, a little bit more possible shower and storm activity, but should see a nice day on Wednesday. Thursday, maybe some showers, and then into the weekend actually looking quite nice. So maybe finally towards the end of the week, we get some prolonged relief from all the stormy weather we've been seeing. And really, we can kind of pin it to this national pattern, what's been bringing all the heat to western parts of the country, more mild conditions. So for Toronto, we're kind of hanging out around the seasonal mark, not too hot, not too cold, but really what we're looking to get out of our kind of way here is all this stormy weather, which we haven't seen too much of in the last little while. Let's talk about how tomorrow is shaping up. We have seen as we get to 10 in the morning, maybe a bit of storms reaching Toronto, but it's really going to be the afternoon. Look at all the storms kind of swirling around the GTA, but that's what we're dealing with. A little bit of storms to start off our Monday. The rest of the week, Talia, looking quite good.
Thanks, Matt.